Why Sword Art Online's biggest mistake was leaving Aincrad. What's up you guys, Kage here, and today we're going to be talking about something that still bothers a lot of anime fans to this day. Because honestly, the biggest mistake Sword Art Online ever made was leaving Aincrad. Now don't get me wrong, Sword Art Online started off as one of the most hyped anime concepts ever. It had thousands of players trapped inside a VR MMORPG, climbing a massive tower called Aincrad, clearing floors, leveling up, forming guilds, and trying to survive. And the crazy part, if you die in game, you die in real life. That alone created some of the highest stakes in anime. But then halfway through season 1, the story just leaves Aincrad, and in my opinion, that decision completely changed the tone of the show, and not in a good way. Because once we moved into the fairy dance arc, a lot of what made SAO special was suddenly gone. Today we're going to talk about why Aincrad worked so well, why fairy dance felt weaker, and why SAO might have been way better if the Aincrad arc lasted longer. Aincrad had one of the best premises in anime. The moment SAO started, the premise immediately hooks you. Thousands of players log into a brand new VR MMORPG expecting a normal game, but then the creator of the game, Akihiko Kayaba, traps everyone inside. No logout button, no escape, and the only way to leave we all 100 floors of Aincrad. And if you die in the game, the nerve gear fries your brain in real life. That concept alone creates constant tension. Every fight matters, every boss battle matters, every dungeon matters, and every mistake could literally mean death. This is something that very few anime ever managed to pull off this well. The stakes were clear, simple, and terrifying. The leveling system actually made the world feel real. Another thing Aincrad did really well was the leveling progression system. SAO felt like a real MMORPG. Players had to grind levels, they had to farm materials, they had to clear floors and unlock new areas. And the stronger players naturally started rising to the top. That's where someone like Kirito becomes interesting. He's a solo player, grinding levels like crazy, learning boss mechanics, fighting rare gear, and becoming one of the strongest players in the game. You could actually see the progression. Early fights felt dangerous. Mid-game fights felt tactical, and late-game bosses felt like full-scale raid battles. The leveling system made the rules feel structured and believable, and gave the characters clear goals: clear the floor, get stronger, survive, move up the tower. The risk in Aincrad made every fight intense. Probably the biggest reason Aincrad worked so well was the risk factor. Because remember, this isn't just a game. People are actually dying. Guilds get wiped out. Players get betrayed. People panic under pressure. You see characters struggle with fear, trauma, and survival. Some players become heroes, others become criminals. Some completely lose hope. That physiological pressure is what made smaller fights feel intense. When Kirito enters a boss fight, it isn't just about winning. It's about whether everyone walks out alive. And that tension made the story feel unpredictable. You never knew who might die next. The world building was full of potential. Another thing Aincrad had going for it was the world itself. Each floor of Aincrad was basically its own environment. Different cities, different monsters, different quests, different guilds controlling different areas. It felt like an entire MMO ecosystem. The crazy part, we only saw a small fraction of it. There were supposed to be 100 floors, but the anime jumps through huge chunks of them with time skips, which means we miss tons of potential stories. More guild rivalry, more boss fights, more survival moments, more character arcs. Aincrad could have easily carried an entire season or multiple seasons on its own. Then Fairy Dance completely changed the tone. After Aincrad arc ends, the show moves into the Fairy Dance arc, and this is where things start to feel different. The stakes immediately drop. Instead of players dying in real life, the story becomes about saving Asuna from another VR game. Now look, saving Asuna makes sense from a character perspective, but overall, intention of the story just isn't the same anymore. In Aincrad, if you die in real life. In Fairy Dance, it's basically just another game, and that alone removes a huge part of the suspense. The fighting also felt less intense. Another issue is that the fights in Fairy Dance just don't feel as impactful in Aincrad. Every fight had consequences. Players had limited resources. Death was permanent. Strategy mattered, and Fairy Dance Kirito is basically overpowered from the start. The system mechanics aren't as grounded, and the fights feel less like survival and more like action scenes. That shift might sound small, but it changes the entire tone of the story. Aincrad felt like a death game survival story. Fairy Dance felt more like a rescue mission inside a video game. The plot became simpler, another major difference in the story itself. The Aincrad arc had multiple stories happening at once. Guild politics, boss raids, player killers, character development, survival struggles, floor progression, but Fairy Dance mostly revolves around one goal, save Austin, and that basically is the entire arc. There aren't as many layered conflicts happening, which makes the story feel a lot smaller compared to the massive world of Aincrad when it was introduced. On a quick side note, Sword Art Online kind of wasted its potential. The biggest problem isn't the fact that Fairy Dance exists. The real issue is that fact that Aincrad had way more potential than we actually got. That setting could have easily supported multiple seasons, more character arcs, more guild stories, more dungeons exploration, more boss raids. Instead, we skipped huge portions of the tower and moved on pretty quickly, and that's why a lot of fans feel like the series left the best concept way too early. Not because the later arcs are terrible, but because Aincrad had the potential to become something even bigger. Even the music in Sword Art Online was actually pretty good. One thing that definitely deserves credit though is the music. Sword Art Online's soundtrack is honestly pretty solid. A lot of the battle themes during the Aincrad arc really helped sell the intensity of the fights, and the emotional tracks during character moments hit pretty hard too. The music added a lot to the atmosphere, especially during boss fights and dramatic scenes. So even though the story direction changed later, the soundtrack stayed consistently good. Why Aincrad is still the most loved arc. Even years later, when people talk about Sword Art Online, most of the conversation still goes back to Aincrad because that arc had a perfect mix of high stakes, strong world building, character development, game mechanics, and constant tension. It felt like a survival RPG mixed with anime drama, and that combination was incredibly unique. When SAO first came out, that's why so many fans still wish the story had spent more time climbing the tower instead of moving on so quickly. At the end of the day, Sword Art Online isn't a bad series. It has cool ideas, memorable characters, and some great moments, but it's hard not to look back at Aincrad and think about what could have been, because that arc had the potential to become one of the greatest long-running anime storylines ever. A massive death game MMO, 100 floors, thousands of players fighting to survive, and every step closer to freedom. But instead of fully exploring that world, the story moved on pretty quickly, and that's why a lot of fans still say the same thing to this day. Sword Art Online's biggest mistake was leaving Aincrad. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what you think. Do you think Aincrad should have lasted longer, or do you think the later arcs were just as good? And as always, I'll catch you guys in the next one.